You know what? Sweden's future is crazier than you think. Just look at how many quality assets they have. Take Victor Gyokeres, for example. 22 goals and 19 league appearances this season.
Wow, that is really impressive.
That is a brilliant record for the Sporting striker. And his goal record for Sweden isn't too bad either, with 15 goals and 26 appearances.
No, that's good.
Don't get it twisted. He isn't just a striker who only scores goals and does nothing else.
Okay.
Over the last 2 campaigns for Sporting, he's registered 20 assists in all competitions.
Wow.
Another brilliant record. And if you can incorporate some of that play for Sweden and, well, bring the likes of Alexander Isak, Dejan Kulusevski and Anthony Elanga into the game, then it could pay dividends for the national team and be devastating for the opposition.
And let's touch upon a man that you just mentioned in Alexander Isak, who has been unbelievable this season because he's got 17 goals in 22 Premier League appearances for Newcastle.
Great record.
And, well, you could say arguably he's the best player in the Premier League and maybe even Europe.
Yeah, definitely make an argument for that.
Well, he's on fire, isn't he? And he still doesn't hit his ceiling because he's still got bags of potential.
And although the Swedish manager Thomasson does a very good job at accommodating both by playing a 2 up top, he does have many top players at his disposal like Hugo Bolin, Anthony Elanga, Dejan Kulusevski, who can play in these wide areas, which would then enable him just to play one striker up top and either rest one of Gyokeres or Isak.
However, his record on the international stage isn't the best with 15 goals and 50 appearances.
It's not the greatest, but as we've seen this season, Isak is really coming into his own. He's slowly becoming the best striker in the world. So ultimately, you would hope that he could translate the form that he's shown at Newcastle in a Swedish shirt, and well, that could propel them onto major tournaments. And having previously glossed over Anthony Elanga earlier on, I think it's fair to say that he will be a key member of the squad moving forward if he's included.
I agree.
Because as you know, back in October, after their 3-0 win against Estonia, he didn't turn up to the team meal, which was quite odd. He was the only player who didn't turn up for the team meal, and he didn't respond to any of the manager's calls asking him where he was.
Weird.
Yeah, so maybe there's a bit of tension there between player and manager, and as a result, he wasn't included within the squad for the November international break. But if they can resolve that tension and come to some sort of conclusion, which they probably will have because it's only a minor issue, then he will be a key asset for Sweden, won't he?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a solution to that problem very soon because even though Elanga doesn't necessarily have the best numbers, his contributions aren't to go under the radar because as you can see, someone like Chris Wood has elevated his game and that is due to the testament of Elanga on that right-hand side, and that effect on Wood could have the same effect on Isak and Gyokeres, whoever's playing up front for Sweden. Now moving on to another talent in the Swedish side in Dejan Kulusevski, where the Swede has always had a lot of potential, but he has had periods of struggle at Tottenham. However, that potential seems to have been unlocked since moving into that attacking midfield role under Ange Postecoglou. He's arguably been our best player this season, and a huge factor to that is the fact that he's unbelievable at retaining the ball. It's really difficult to get the ball off him. He uses a physical presence very well, and partner that with his creativity, and the Sweden attack, they've been mouthful driven, the fact that someone like Kulu is playing behind them.
And on top of that, he's not afraid to take shots from the edge of the box, which is something that maybe the likes of Isak and Gyokeres aren't too proficient at. And that will obviously help elevate Sweden's game further. And also he can play out on the right and in the 10. So that versatility will pay dividends too. Moving on to the midfield, and although the names within this position don't grab the headlines like the strikers do, there still is a lot of potential within this region for Sweden.
For sure.
Take a look at Hugo Larsson from Frankfurt, a brilliant young talent. Ayari from Brighton as well, another brilliant young player. And Lucas Bergvall from Tottenham. Tell me a little bit about him.
Of course, he plays for my club, Spurs, and I have to say, even at 19 years old, he's become one of our standout performers this year. He's added much needed quality to our midfield, and even though he's still a little bit raw, there's clear talent there, and it will be massive for Tottenham's future and also Sweden's.
And finale, let's touch upon the defence. And yes, this is the weakest position of the national team. There's no two ways about it. They don't have the same depth or quality within this region, but they still have players like Isak Heim, who is one of the best defenders in Europe at the moment. A brilliant player for Atalanta. Gudmundsson from Lille, an able deputy. Emil Holm from Bologna. Victor Lindelof, who although isn't maybe the player he was a few years ago, still an experienced head within that back line. And yes, the attack in the midfield is most likely going to win them games and get them through those tough periods, and it's not going to be sort of built from the defence. But I certainly do feel like this Sweden team as a whole and this Sweden team as a unit could be a big proposition for years to come. Because under their previous manager, it was the first time they didn't qualify for the Euros since 1996. But under this coach, well, the expectation and the hope is that they will qualify for the Euros and the World Cup moving forward.
Rightfully so.
And maybe even go deep in the competition.